Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this wonderful Monday. Again, a bit of an overcast day, but we've had some rain again today, which is great. Public holiday today in South Africa, Freedom Day. So let's all enjoy today. And I don't even know what day it is anymore on lockdown, but I think it's something like day 28 or 30 or 31. I've lost count, but it doesn't really matter anymore because one day we'll be out of this, and then we don't need to be counting the days anymore. Our Bobs. So today we're going to chat a bit about mindfulness and gratitude. Gratitude is certainly one of the things that is most underlooked or underestimated or underappreciated in our lives. And this word gratitude is a wonderful word that will help us to change a lot of aspects of our life and certainly a lot of our outlook in our life. So we're going to start today with a bit of a chat, this quote by Oprah Winfrey, which says, "Be thankful for what you have because you'll end up having more. If you concentrate on what you don't have, you will never, ever have enough." And what I found is I've done quite a bit of work with gratitude and done quite a bit of group work. And why group work works so well is that, when you end up in a group therapy slot or a support group and you share your story, and then you listen to everyone else's stories around, often you feel that your story is worse and is the worst before you've heard other people's stories. And you think no one else could understand my situation. No one else could be in the terrible situation I find myself. Morning, Rain. But when you listen to everyone else's stories in that group, they are always, I would argue that the majority of the people in your group, their stories are way worse than yours. And it puts your life into perspective. And sometimes we like to put ourselves onto a pedestal and think that, our lives are dreadful. But when we hear other people's stories, there's always people that are in worse situations than ourselves. So today's session around gratitude has a lot of meaning in our lives, and certainly it will help us because as we become more mindful, again, we start focusing a lot more on our emotions and a lot more on our thoughts. And the strange thing about mindfulness, or when we start connecting, or when we start becoming conscious, or when we start noticing our thinking, I shouldn't say when we become mindful, but when we start noticing our thinking, we'll realize we spend a lot more time focusing on the negative emotions, the negative situations in our life, the people in our life that we don't want, the people that are frustrating us. And this can take up a lot of our energy and drain us and leave us certainly moving towards those blue emotions of depression, etc. So one wants to, and as I said, I don't like the word positive thinking, but one wants certainly change one's outlook into a more positive approach, a more positive outlook, a more positive orientation. And this is what today's session is going to be a little bit about. And gratitude is certainly one of those ways of shifting your focus or shifting your attention into that's which is more positive in your life. All right, so let me go on to my next slide. So I don't know if I'm not even old enough to have read these books on Pollyanna, but certainly as a child, I'm not even sure whenabouts, but it's a lady called Ellen Porter wrote about this young girl called Pollyanna. Now, Pollyanna used to live, and she hated the fact that everyone around her was so negative, and she couldn't understand why everyone had doom and gloom. And she always felt that she invented a game called the Glad Game. I think she was somewhere between 8 and 10 or 8 and 11. And she invented a game called the Glad Game. And she wanted everyone that was moaning or everyone that was sitting in a negative space to find 3 things that they could be thankful for, that they could be happy for. And this Glad Game eventually started infecting those around her. And eventually a whole village changed their orientation to a much more positive outlook. And this little slide, the little cartoon on the side here is, they've called it Post-Apocalyptic Pollyanna. And she's even saying, well, that certainly tidied things up, didn't it? So despite the fact that it's post-apocalypse, it's a lot neater because things are cleaner. I think it's something a little bit about like our lockdown. I shared a video last night with animals on the streets. And virtually every single town, city in the world is sitting with wild animals that are now sort of kind of roaming the streets again or taking back what was once theirs. So the Pollyanna effect is about the idea that in any situation, and we'll do an exercise in today's session, can be you can look for something good in it. It doesn't matter how disastrous it is, how terrible it was, how much it affected you negatively. There's still positives in that situation. Then there's this chap, Dr. Masaru Emoto. If you've done any reading on him, he's quite a controversial scientist. Some argue he's not a scientist, some argue he is. Anyway, he did a lot of work with water and water crystals. And the point at which, hi Sean, thanks for joining us. Long time no see. So he did a lot of experiments with water. And what he did was he took droplets of water and then froze them and took photographs of them under a microscope, electron microscope, and took photos of them at that point of freezing. And the interesting thing is that he found that certain words came up like beautiful snowflakes, perfectly oriented, like these little mandalas. But if you look at the top left picture on the left-hand side there, heavy metal music looked like that. Then the word amazing grace came out like this on the right. And so as you went through the different things, calling someone a fool, saying thank you, and he put out quite a few videos, and if you Google his name on internet, as I said, you'll find 50% are for and 50% are against him. But his whole argument was the fact that our bodies, ourselves, our planet, is sitting with 70%, we're made up of 70% of water. So if we are thinking these negative thoughts, because some of the times he just put a test tube with water in and put sticky taped a word to those test tubes, and then he went and looked at them under the microscope. Or he played heavy metal music or shouted at some water, and it had these different responses or effects on the water. And certainly the video I watched, the two words that came out most profoundly for him were love and gratitude. And there's a photograph on the right-hand side there of the gratitude under a microscope once you put that word around the water. So he says if all the people in the world could just have love and gratitude, the pristine beauty of the earth will once again return. So I thought I'd just add this in. It is controversial. It is part of transpersonal studies. And one wonders, like around things like saying grace over your food, holy water, this kind of stuff. I think he does even use holy water from some of the temples that he does experiments with. So there is something to be said about this word gratitude. So as I said today, we're going to be doing mindfulness and gratitude. And becoming mindful of this, like we mentioned, is straight away your thoughts are going to become more to the fore, your thoughts and emotions. And once we do that, we start detaching ourselves from them. And as we detach from them, again, I'm repeating what I said right in the introduction, we notice that these thoughts are a lot more negative. And the interesting thing about noticing your thoughts are negative, as you start noticing them, they become less. So your negative thinking, the minute you shine a light on them, we did touch on this 2 or 3 sessions back, become less. The other important thing to notice is they are transitory. So we all, myself included, and I'm sure everyone that's watching, we go through great days and we go through terrible days and we go through kind of mediocre days. But they pass. And the important thing is to ride out the storm when we're feeling like that. And then also to understand that these negative thoughts, negative emotions and thoughts do draw the most attention and take the most amount of our time. Why? And we've touched on this in our previous sessions, because we don't want to feel them. Instead of allowing them some space, I've got a feelings list that I hand out to my clients, and there are actually more words for negative emotions than there are positive words. And I'd probably say by about 2 to 1. And that's interesting in itself. So to be aware that we need to start shifting this focus away from our negative emotions, not neglecting them, but just shifting our focus away and onto the more positive. It's just started to rain again. It's always a lovely sound when rain has been so scarce. So this thing called gratitude, what is it? Gratitude is simply being grateful. Many of us might, depending if we're religiously oriented or spiritually oriented, might be thankful towards a source. But we do not have to be religious or spiritual to be grateful. So even those that aren't religious or spiritual, the gratitude, the focus should just be on what do we need to be grateful for? What is positive in my life? And, even if we look at situations like lockdown, we could have one mindset that says, oh, I hate being locked down. I hate people telling me what to do. I can't stand this, and feel like we're out of our power because someone's forcing their will upon us. Or we can make a choice to stay at home. And the minute we turn that into a choice, we start finding all the benefits of lockdown. And as I said, there are as many, if not more, people explaining how happy they are, despite the economic situation and despite the fact that we're struggling financially. But it is much better. We're finding time to spend with our families. We've done different things we might not have touched on. We've tidied cupboards. We've cooked. People are baking bread. People are making beer. Pineapple beer, I think, is the big one in South Africa now because alcohol has been pretty much banned. All the stores are closed. People are making their own alcohol. So we can focus on what's positive for us. And this is also extremely important. And also appreciation will start moving you also in the sense of that direction. What is it that I've got? Rather than what don't I have? Because the minute we think of something that's not ours, that we don't have, and I think it's one of those biblical phrases, do not covet thy neighbor's goods. The minute we want something that someone else has got that we haven't got, that sets up this cognitive dissonance, this irritation or conflict in my head that now I'm unhappy, I want that. And, I think I posted a picture or a meme on my Facebook page today which said, Gratitude can turn a house into a home, all right, or food into a meal. So there's a lot of these words that we have no appreciation for, and if we just could see some appreciation, it would become gratitude, and it would become quite a shift in the energy of our bodies. So this little exercise can be tough, because especially if it's something that's just happened. So I'd rather, if in this exercise you think of something that happened a while ago, it could be a year, 2, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and not today that you might be too close for. But think of something for which you are not grateful. And just for an example, again, I've just mentioned that lockdown. So none of us are grateful to be locked in our houses. But then find something positive about that choice, and to repeat this exercise daily with different things in your life. But you can think of, I've worked with clients that have been dreadfully unhappy when their partners cheated on them or their relationship is broken up. I'll never forget this one young lady. She was tearful for probably a month, 2 months, and I certainly didn't say that because I was empathic in the beginning, but after 2-3 months, we explained that at some point in the future, she's going to be in such a happy place. This was at least 8 years ago. And this lady is now in such a wonderful place, traveling the world, met the man of her dreams. They've been together for quite a while now. But at that moment in time, she felt that her life was over. So now reflecting back, she can see how many positive things can come out of that relationship breakup. So you might not be able to see it at the time, but in reflection, there's always positive that's come out of that situation, or positive and negative that comes out of a situation. All right. So do this exercise daily. We're going to talk a bit about a gratitude journal later, but it's important that you regularly check in with your thoughts. I've certainly done it. Any of my relationships that have ended, I've always said, I've never looked negatively at that relationship. It is just a relationship. Some people will say to me they've wasted 20 years with that person or 30 years with that person, and you didn't have that information that your partner was going to cheat on you or the partner was going to be abusive to you when you met them. But when you decide to leave and you can look back, there were also going to be good times in amongst the 20 years or 30 years. So you don't have to be disappointed in your 20 years or your waste of 20 or 30 years. There were lots of things that you gained and lots of growth that you would have had. And arguably it would be your own mistake if you keep staying and the same thing keeps happening, which is what we've been talking about. All right, so make sure that you repeat this exercise daily, because like with anything, we want to develop a habit of thinking in a new way. There we go. We're chatting a bit about forming a habit. So in order to start thinking like this, it's important because habits have a cumulative effect. So the more we start doing it, the more it starts building in sort of automatically into our system and automatically into our way of interacting with the world. But in order to form this new habit, we have to remain conscious and we have to be mindful. So how do we do this? So one of the ideas is to use a reminder. So, if I don't go and exercise straight after my breakfast, I normally have a cup of coffee and some toast. And then I either go for a run, get on the treadmill, do some exercising. But so you need to have something that's going to be a trigger for that. I remember one guy had a problem with looking at the clock, so he always was checking his watch and clock. So he put a little post-it stamps on every one of the clock and every watch, even on his own watch, he put a little dot on, that when he looked at his watch, it would remind him to check in with himself and say, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? How's my body doing? So you have to use these triggers. I often say to people, sometimes every time you hear a ping on your phone for an SMS or a WhatsApp, or your email alarm goes off, use that as a reminder to check in with yourself and say what's happening. Then definitely to have a routine. If you don't have routines, again, you're never going to get to do what you want to do. So unless you build your meditation, your exercising, even I find with exercise, unless I have a program. So if I'm doing body weight exercises or some weight exercises, unless I've got a program written out, or you go to the gym and you either go, what should I do today? Or maybe I'll run on the treadmill, maybe I'll go on the bicycle, maybe I'll row, maybe I'll do some weights. You very seldom get there because you don't have a plan. So you need to have a routine, you need to have a plan. For those of you that want to run, I know it's lockdown now, but hopefully we're going to be able to start exercising from Friday. A great tip that someone gave me a long time ago was the night before, put your clothes out, get everything ready so that the next morning in your half sleep state that you can just put the clothes on and go out for a run. Okay, tip number 3, do it consistently. Do it every day, because the more you do it, the more it becomes habitual. And I love getting into that routine where I feel guilty if I haven't exercised, or I feel guilty if I haven't done certain things. So once it becomes a routine, you start feeling guilty and you want to do it. So the other important part about this do it consistently is not to beat yourself up if you skip a few days. So with a diet, with an exercise program, with a meditation routine, it doesn't matter if you are keeping only 70 or 80% towards that plan. 70, 80 to 80% of a plan is a lot better than 0%. So, and I'm just speaking, throwing it in here. I think in 2010, can't believe it's so long ago now, I did Ironman, and I used to beat myself up because you start getting quite anxious about training or missing out on training if it's raining, etc. And someone said this to me, that Greg, it doesn't matter if you only do 80% of the program because you're still going to be able to finish Ironman. So you don't have to stick to the program 100%. There's going to be days that you don't feel like training, your body feels sore. So you don't have to do this. So I apply this every time. And if you think about life, to get a distinction at university, you need more than 70%, okay, maximum 75% to graduate cum laude, top of your class, which means 25% of the time you can fake it or make mistakes or, So if you're keeping to your diet 75 or 80% of the time, it's a lot better than 0%. Sometimes people fail and then they just bail on the complete program because they missed out on one training session. So, you see there, I'm not good enough. So make sure that you do it consistently. So use reminders, make sure that you have a routine or build it into your routine, and then do it consistently. And again, routines or schedules, do not be rigid about them because there are going to be crises that arise and you can't stick to your routine. So maybe, like yesterday, I didn't exercise. I thought, I'm going to give it a miss today. Today I was back on the treadmill. So it doesn't matter if you don't feel like doing it on a certain day, but don't, at least if you have a routine, you can go back to it rather than just saying, well, what am I going to do today? Then we have this thing called a gratitude journal. I think Oprah Winfrey, some people love her, some people hate her. She made quite a big thing about her gratitude journal that she writes in every day. And she writes 5 things. You don't even need to write 5 things. You can think of 3 things that you have to be grateful for every single day. It's great if you can write them in a journal because the journal is going to allow you to look back on them and see them and read through them when you're feeling negative. But the idea is every night before you go to sleep, ideally every morning as well when you wake up, think, what do I have to be grateful for? I have and we're going to talk about it just now, I think after this, I have a set affirmation I say every morning. I just say, thank you, God, for this wonderful day. Today, I'm going to make great things happen. And it's an affirmation that I put over myself, and we'll talk about affirmations now. But it's one of those things that is important to be grateful for. And then, what am I thankful for? Because if you're thankful, it starts your day on a healthy note. Same as if just before you go to sleep at night, if you say what you'd be grateful for, you can sleep on it rather than sleeping on all the things you're unhappy about, which makes you not sleep. So you need to write every day. You need to make sure that there's a certain time that you do it in, build it into your routine, and this definitely will increase your sense of well-being. They've done research in 2 universities, I think it's Miami and California, I think was the one, where they did research. It was quite an old research, it's 2003, about people who are journaling what they have to be grateful for. And this had an impact on their life, on their general well-being for the rest of their lives. Because as long as you're writing, it starts turning your focus into the more positive way of thinking rather than negative. Oops. So let's just chat about affirmations. So affirmations are short phrases that are positive. They're certainly in the present. They are already happening. So you don't say, I will be happy one day. It's, I am happy. I'm happy today. So you start saying it in the present. Okay? And the ideal time, I've just mentioned it with the gratitude journal, the ideal time to say these affirmations is just before you go to sleep or just before you wake up in the morning or just before you arise in the morning. The reason for this is, and I've done quite a few hypnosis courses, is that there's just before we fall asleep, we go into quite a suggestive state called the hypnagogic state and hypnopompic state, just before you fall asleep and cross over from awakingness into sleep and just as you're coming out of sleep into wakefulness. So as you wake up in the morning, I talk about as you wake up, just when you wake up behind your eyes. I had a friend of mine or a client of mine rather, that he chuckled at this because he had never thought of this. He just says he opens his eyes when he wakes up. But if you start practicing this as you wake up in the mornings, you literally start becoming conscious. You sort of rise up through the layers of sleep, and then you literally wake up behind your eyes. And I tell people to practice this waking up behind your eyes. So instead of just waking up, opening your eyes and getting out of bed, just wake up. Realize that your consciousness is switched on, your eyes are still closed, because literally you have to give the instruction to open your eyes so that you can get up and go to the loo or switch on the lights or whatever it is that you're going to do. So in that space between sleeping and wakefulness, say your affirmations then. I am happy, I am calm, I am relaxed, I am focused, and whatever it is that you need to do that day. And this is what an affirmation is. And as I said, I'm just repeating this. You can say these things 1,000 times a day. The more you can, I smoked a long time ago. I gave up smoking when I was 26. One of my affirmations when I gave up smoking was, I'm a non-smoker. I made that my new identity. I'm a non-smoker. I must have said that 1,000 times. So affirmations are extremely positive ways of becoming more grateful. And we're going to look at gratitude affirmations now on the next slide. So these are some morning gratitude affirmations that you could, so even if you just remember, or you're going to be able to watch this on my slide and I playback in the archives on my page. So thank you for this new day. So say this to yourself when you make these things, or learn them off by heart and say them over and over and over again in your mind until they start filtrating into your system. Thank you for this new day. I'm filled with happiness and gratitude. I'm grateful for another chance to live my life. I'm grateful to feel the air in my lungs and the beatings of my heart. I'm thankful simply for being alive. Thankfulness, appreciation, and sincere gratitude are part of who I am. I'm grateful for who I am and for what I have. I invite gratitude into my heart. Today I will have an attitude of gratitude, and thank you for the blessings this day will bring. All of these will shift energy in your body. And I've even had depressed people stand in my office, and I ask them to stand up, and then they're normally quite slouched and looking down the ground. And I said, just take a deep breath, put your shoulders back, put your chest out, lift up your chin, and smile. Doesn't matter how disastrous your situation is, just smile. And it's amazing the chemical change that happens in your body just by shifting your posture. So it's extremely important. And once you start using these kind of words in your system, you're going to see how the energy shifts. This is a simple little exercise. They talk about it in The Secret. Sorry about that. They talk about it in The Secret. They call it gratitude stones. And gratitude stones are, often when I walk along the beach, looking so forward to that again when that's allowed, I pick up the little tiny stones. I normally use ones about the size of a 50-cent piece or a 5 Rand coin. But the idea with gratitude stones is to find one that you like as you're walking along, or it could be a shiny object or a gemstone. And, for men, we always have our keys in and out of our pocket. For a lady, you can maybe put it on your mirror if you look into your mirror often, or put it somewhere where you can see the gratitude stone. And like we said just now, you need a reminder. So the gratitude stone reminds you of things to be grateful for. And when every time you look at that stone, so if you're a man, every time you put the stone in your pocket, every time you take the stone out with your keys and you put it down, remind yourself, what do I have to be grateful for? And like I said, your life could be in the most disastrous situation possible, but you still have, I say to some people that they struggle, and I say, you still have legs, you still have arms, you still have your health, you have a roof over your head, you still have food on your table, but you're moaning about a partner, or you're moaning about this, and we become consumed by that. So the gratitude stone is a great way, or the gratitude journal is a great way to start moving or shifting this focus away from what you don't have in your life. So on to the case study for today. So Luz and Iris both worked together at the same job, both engaged in bad habits. The one ate too many sweets, and the other one smoked a lot. And during their training, they both decided to follow the course's advice and began keeping this daily gratitude journal. Luz didn't do a gratitude journal in the same time every day and was more haphazard about it. So after about a week, she had stopped, and Iris, on the other hand, drank coffee every morning and decided to make drinking her coffee as her cue to write in this gratitude journal. So by the end of the week, Luz hadn't given up on her smoking, and Iris had, so she had stopped eating all her sweets, and decided and said to Luz, must get into a routine. Come, I drink coffee every morning. When I drink the coffee, that's when I quickly jot down into my gratitude journal. And soon both of them were writing in their gratitude journal, and both had moved on to wellness. So Luz had stopped smoking, and Iris had stopped eating her sweets. So it's extremely important to start changing habit. And just remember, with habits can take anything from a few weeks to a few months. But the rule of thumb is 3 weeks minimum. But I would normally go with 6 to 8 weeks, and probably even more, 8 to 12 weeks before something really becomes ingrained in you. So it does take perseverance, like I said, courage, commitment, and conviction. So please work on that, and then we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful day with your families and wherever you are locked down, and we'll chat tomorrow. Thank you. Take care.